These are the top 10 most played games on Steam Deck for June 2026. I'm changing the format a little bit, top 20 just seemed like too much. Now Valve releases this list every month and it covers the past 30 days of playtime data, and in this video I'm sharing how they run on both the OLED and the LCD and why they feel great on the Steam Deck. Let's get into it. Kicking things off at number 10 we have Brotato. If you haven't played it, it's a top-down arena shooter roguelite where you're a potato holding up to 6 weapons at once, surviving waves of enemies between shop runs. Each run is broken up into waves. You fight, then you shop, and then you fight again. The runs are short, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and the upgrade system is deep enough that you're always trying one more build. It held at number 10 from last month, and at this point Brotato showing up on this chart every single month is just kind of expected. It's one of those games that never really leaves. I think it's been on this list more or less continuously since the existence of the Steam Deck. On the OLED, battery life is around 7.5 hours, and on the LCD it's closer to 4 hours. It's not a demanding game at all, and those are some of the best numbers on this list. The small screen suits it very well, everything is readable, the sessions are short enough that you're not hunched over for hours, and this is a good pick up and play game on the Steam Deck. Let me know if you've played it, how many hours do you have in Brotato? At number 9, Balatro. This is a poker-based roguelite deck builder. You're building hands, stacking joker cards on top of each other and trying to hit score targets that start pretty reasonable and end up in the hundreds of millions by the final ante. It sounds simple, it's not simple. The moment something clicks and you understand why multipliers stack the way they do, that is when it's kind of hard to put this game down. It's down one spot from last month, which means essentially nothing. It's been on this chart consistently since launch and I don't see that changing anytime soon. The game got a few updates recently, new challenge decks, some balance passes, so there's still a reason to go back even if you've already put in hundreds of hours. Battery life on the OLED at 60 FPS is close to 7 hours, and on LCD it's around 3.5 hours. It's a 2D card game, so it's not really that demanding. This is one of the better games on here for squeezing out a long session on your Steam Deck. Number 8 is DELTARUNE. This is a new entry this month. If you know Undertale, this is from the same developer. DELTARUNE is its own thing, but it shares a lot of DNA with Undertale. It's got turn-based combat, writing that goes from funny to pretty strange, and bullet hell mechanics woven into the battle system. You're physically dodging attacks in real time while choosing your actions in the menu. Now chapters 1 and 2 have been free for years and they've been out for years, and chapter 5 released in June, and that's clearly what pushed this onto the chart. Now performance wise, it's worth knowing upfront this game is limited to 30 FPS. That's a software cap, it's a decision the developer made, it's not a hardware limitation. And at 30 FPS on the OLED I'm getting around 3 hours of battery. Honestly, this was pretty surprising. DELTARUNE does not look like a game that should be drawing this much power. It's a 2D RPG with simple pixel art, but the numbers are what they are. On the LCD it's around an hour and a half, so if you're planning a longer session, have a charger ready. The game runs fine, there's no performance issues, no crashing, just the battery life is not great for what it is. Has anyone figured out why this game's putting so much power? I'm really curious. If you know something about this, let me know in the comments. At number 7, Baldur's Gate 3, which hasn't moved much since last month. At this point, Baldur's Gate 3 is basically a permanent fixture on this chart. It's been here since launch, and I don't think it's missed a single month in the top 10, and I don't think it's going anywhere, which is still really strange as this is a huge game, but people are clearly having fun with it on the Steam Deck. If you somehow still haven't played it, it's a turn-based RPG based on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules. It's got 3 acts, massive amount of content, branching decisions that actually change things in ways that matter. Now Larian, the developers, put out a significant patch earlier this year that added new content and fixed a lot of long-standing issues, and they also released a Linux native version. And I think this is probably keeping some players in the game a lot longer than they expected. Performance on the Steam Deck is pretty decent. At low and medium settings with a 30 FPS cap on the OLED, you're looking at around 2 to 3 hours of battery life depending on the area, and some of the bigger outdoor zones will push the hardware to the limit, and on the LCD battery life is closer to an hour and 30 minutes. Not a long session game on Steam Deck, but it plays well enough. At number 6 is Mina the Hollower, up 17 spots from last month. This is one of the biggest movers in this list. The game is from Yacht Club Games, the studio behind Shovel Knight. It's a top-down action-adventure. Think Zelda Link's Awakening as a loose reference point for the structure and the style. And in this game you're playing as Mina, a mouse engineer on a Victorian horror island that's gone very wrong. It's got whip-based combat, exploration, a skill tree, and the kind of level design that Yacht Club is known for. I think it came out sometime in May, but it clearly found its audience this month. A jump of 17 spots is not a small move. Performance on the Steam Deck is pretty good. At 60 FPS on the OLED, I'm getting around 5.5 hours of battery. And if you push that to 90 FPS, that will drop to around 5 hours. So the difference between 60 and 90 here is not that significant, but I would still probably just run it at 60 and keep the extra battery headroom. For LCD users, the battery life is around 3 hours. The game runs without any issues, it is Steam Deck verified, and in this case, that badge actually holds up. Now, if you guys are enjoying these monthly breakdowns, I cover Steam, Steam Deck, Steam hardware, and gaming handhelds content. If that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Number 5, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, up 10 spots from last month. This is one of the games that basically defined the roguelike genre back in 2014. It's a top-down dungeon crawler, procedurally generated runs, a massive item pool with interactions that stack and combine in ways that people are still discovering even after years of updates and expansions. The jump in the chart here is pretty obviously tied to the Steam summer sale. It went 90% off this month, including all the DLC, and that's the kind of price that puts a game on the chart even if most of you already owns it. They're gifting it, they're picking up a second copy, or it's the first time someone clicked buy after years of seeing it recommended. On the Steam Deck, it runs without any issues. Battery life is around 5 to 6 hours on the OLED. It's not a demanding game at all, and on LCD it's closer to 3.5 hours. The small screen works well for it, and if you've never played it and somehow missed it at full price, the sale makes it a very easy recommendation. Let me know, did you pick it up during the Steam summer sale, or have you been playing it for years already? Number 4, Forza Horizon 6. Same position as last month, holding steady. I did a full review on Forza Horizon 6, so if you want the complete breakdown and the best settings for this game, I'll have a link for that in the description. The short version is an open world racing set across Japan and a few surrounding regions. It's got a huge car roster, good variety of event types, and it came out as a surprisingly solid performance on the Steam Deck for a game of this scale. A mixture of low and medium settings with a 40 FPS cap on the Steam Deck gets you playable performance. For battery life, you're looking at around 2.5 to 3 hours on the OLED and about 1.5 hours on the LCD. It's not a game you're going to play for 5 hours on a charge, but for the kind of game it is, I think that's kind of expected. It also requires an internet connection for the initial setup, and some features are online only. That's not a Steam Deck specific issue, but if you're planning to play offline, that's something to know going in. At number 3, Dave the Diver, up 26 spots. This is the biggest single jump on this entire list, and that's mainly due to a new DLC that launched in June. If you haven't played it, it's a hybrid game that really shouldn't work as well as it does. During the day, you're diving underwater, exploring, fishing, managing your oxygen, dealing with increasingly weird things as you go deeper, and at night you're running a sushi restaurant using the fish you caught during the day. It sounds like a strange pitch, and it kind of is, but the loop is pretty fun and the writing is also very clever and it keeps you going. On the OLED at 60 FPS, I'm getting around 3.5 hours of battery, and on the LCD it drops to about 2.5 hours. Have you played Dave the Diver before? What do you think about it? And let me know if this DLC is what made you play it again on the Steam Deck. Number 2, Stardew Valley. I don't think I need to explain what Stardew Valley is at this point. You inherit a farm, you plant crops, you build relationships with the town, you spelunk in the mines, and somehow it all comes together into one of the most played indie games ever made. It's been on this chart so many times that at this point I should probably stop talking about it. I'm pretty sure Stardew Valley is going to be on this list until Valve decides to stop publishing this data. Now, version 1.6 added a decent amount of content, new farm types, new events, multiplayer improvements, and people are still working through all of that. Battery life on the OLED is around 7 to 8 hours. This is one of the best numbers on this entire list. and if you're on LCD, you're still looking at 5 to 6 hours easily. It's one of the best games on the Steam Deck. And at number 1, for the third month in a row, Slay the Spire 2. It's a deck building roguelite, and you're constructing a deck of cards run by run, fighting through 3 acts of increasingly difficult encounters and trying to beat the Spire. The original Slay the Spire is one of the most influential games in the genre. Pretty much everything in the deck builder space since 2017 owes something to that game. The sequel is still in early access, but it already has multiple characters, new card sets, new mechanics, multiplayer, and it's in a solid enough state that people are clearly putting real hours in it. On the Steam Deck OLED, battery life is around 7 to 8 hours, and on the LCD it's closer to 6 hours. It's a card game, and the hardware barely has to work. Very comfortable for long sessions, and if you've played the original and you've been on the fence about the early access, it's in a good enough state and it's worth trying it out. That covers the top 10 most played games on the Steam Deck for June 2026. Let me know if you played any of these or if you're playing something else, and if you guys enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like. If you hated it, leave a dislike and let me know what I can do to improve. And if you're into Steam, Steam Deck, Steam hardware and gaming handhelds, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.